Thank you for giving me your time today.
No problem.
I love doing sports stories, so these are really fun for me. So, first off, can you tell me a little bit of your path? How did you get to Cedarville? What was that like kind of coming out of high school? How much did you play in high school?
Yeah, so I played all, 4 years of high school ball, 3 years of varsity. But I truly didn't get true playing time probably until my junior year. And so that's probably a little bit later than most college prospects, I would say. A lot of those guys are probably playing freshman, sophomore year, and then getting offers pretty soon, early on in their high school career. For me, I didn't get one single D1 offer my whole entire high school career. And so I had a really good senior year and still wasn't getting many looks, whether it's because of my size or, it was already kind of too late or whatever. But one of my coaches, who's also my pastor at my church, he had a online Bible study he does with coaches around the country. And one of those coaches was the pitching coach at Cedarville University at the time. And so that's how I got connected with Cedarville. And they ended up getting me up there for a visit, and I really liked it, and they offered me, and then that was my only collegiate like offer, true offer, was this D2 school in Ohio, and I live in Georgia for context, so that was a longer drive for me. So yeah, that's how I got connected with Cedarville.
That's awesome. And then what position were you playing in high school?
In high school, I was more infield, mainly second base, a little bit of catcher too, because my dad was a catcher. He raised me to be that, but mainly infield.
Okay. And I know you mentioned, and the press release also mentioned your size, so your
Mhm.
height, correct? Can you explain how that maybe has been a little bit of a barrier, or maybe you've been overlooked because of it, and how
Yeah,
you
I
kind
mean,
of overcome that?
yes. I mean, I think early on at a young age, I always knew I was going to be smaller. I was always the shortest one in like all my classes. But I had that athletic ability, and so for me, I didn't like to see it as necessarily as a like a hindrance because I always knew I was just going to be small. So at that point, I just kind of had to suck it up and find a way to get around it. For me, that was kind of like maximizing my body type in the best way I could in terms of I guess in the weight room and all of that. And so yeah, but in the back of your head, you always know that's probably why people are going to doubt you at first. Like if you look at the MLB, there's only one player that's my size playing, and that's Jose Altuve, and one out of hundred. So, and he's a freak athlete, so they're not going to necessarily take their chances on a guy of my stature. But I mean, now I think I have overcome it. And it's something I think people look at me now and honestly give me more attention just because I am smaller and they like seeing, a player of my size do well in the minor leagues.
Yeah, absolutely. Now talk to me a little bit about being at Cedarville. What was that transition like? What position, did they kind of have you start in? And, you know, what was your playing career there? And really, what did the university give you on a personal level, maybe, and also an athletic level?
Right. So, when I got up there, it was kind of a different, I think every, college student gets a little, freaked out, I guess, or whatever, when they get to college just because they're away from home. For me, it was like 8 hours from Georgia and a lot colder too. So it's like, I've only seen snow, I could count on one hand the amount of times I've seen snow in my life before I got up to Ohio. And so that was a tough transition. From a baseball side of things, I feel like it went pretty smooth. Like I felt like I fit in with the guys really well there. I think that's one of the nice things about Cedarville is like, you have good guys who go there and guys who are going to take you under their wing, maybe unlike some other programs, just because that's like the, fun thing to do. But those guys were awesome. I felt like I fit in right away. One of those guys was Tanner. We weren't roommates my first year there. We were roommates next year, but I think because we are both on the baseball team, we just ended up hanging out a lot. A couple of our other buddies too, and then I think overall the experience there was awesome. I committed there not just for baseball, but for other reasons too. One of them, they had engineering, and they have a good program they run there, and so that was my major when I went up there, and I felt like I got a really good education through there. And then also the faith aspect. I took plenty of Bible classes too that really helped me, and that I still honestly I still go back and watch those today. They have them online, and so I just go back there, get some perspective, get some wisdom from these courses, and it really helps me mentally. So I have that to thank a lot for them. And so yeah, I'm really thankful for my time there.
Yeah, and so I mean, it was a place that it made you grow as an athlete, but kind of as a man, correct?
Correct. I would say so even more as a man.
That's amazing. And I did speak to Tanner already on Friday. So we touched on the fact that you're both from Georgia, you
Right.
became roommates. Um, can you expand a little bit on just your relationship with him?
Yeah, he's one of my best friends probably ever in my life. One of the first guys I met when I was up there, we had like a little, like one of the first things I did at Cedarville was, our baseball, like, it was like a luncheon type thing where we met like all the newcomers and the coaches and stuff. And I specifically remember meeting him and his brother, and they were like one of the first people I met. And then from there, like, we just kind of clicked and we're always doing stuff together. I think we're really similar just because we're both kind of competitive. So we would be in the dorm playing ping pong like till the late hours in the night and just be going at it with each other because neither of us like losing and stuff. So that was fun. And then when we were roommates, like, we would have the occasional like little fights, like I would eat his food or something like that. And we would have the, little bickerings and stuff. But yeah, I think that just made us like each other even more. And yeah, to where, we still keep in touch to this day. I ended up staying at his house for a whole summer when I played summer ball in Buffalo, and so and then our families are pretty close too. So yeah, it's a good relationship we have.
That's pretty awesome. And so then when you were at Cedarville, how many years did you play there? Was there COVID in there? Can you kind of
COVID
talk to
was
me
in
about
there.
that path and then just your position when you were there?
Yeah, so when I was there, I was playing second base. I came in and I played second base right away. We had a really good shortstop when I came in there, so I stayed at second base. And then after after I would say my sophomore year, I switched over to shortstop. Um, and so I mainly played there the rest of my time. And then yeah, COVID happened in 2020 because my first year was 2019. And I had a really good freshman year, and then was looking to carry that over, and then COVID hits. So you're like, shoot, man, that stinks. But yeah, and then 2021 came back, um, and the whole policy stuff was kind of hard to deal with, but you get through it and stuff. And then yeah, I mean, it was tough battling through that COVID time just because, you love playing baseball and all of a sudden it's taken from you. I still remember that announcement that was like, we're gonna go home for 2 weeks and then come back, but never came back. And so I think everyone in the country was dealing with that. I wasn't the only one.
Yeah, absolutely. So did you play four years or
Yeah,
three
all the way to
at
sorry, yeah, all the way
Cedarville?
to 2022,
Okay.
2019 to 2022.
Okay.
So it was 4 years, but 3 seasons. I guess three and a half. And so that's why I had that extra year. And I ended up transferring to Coastal Carolina.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what I was going
Mhm.
to talk about next. So what
Yeah.
kind of went into that transfer? What was that like to kind of grow you to the next level? And then what did you do after that? Because I know it wasn't a straight shoot path in the
Right.
minors.
I know, yeah. So 2022, and I had 1 year of eligibility left, and I had talking to like some because I always wanted to play pro baseball. That was always my goal. I talked to a couple pro scouts, and I you could just get the feeling that they weren't really gonna take interest in me, and because of that reason, I felt like it was time to look for an opportunity to play at a higher level, Division I level, and that led me to Coastal Carolina. And so that went really, really well. And then that ended, same thing, right? I'm talking to these pro scouts in summer of 2023, and they're all saying, "Yeah, we're really interested in you. We're probably gonna pick you up if we get a chance." And then the draft happens and nothing. And that was probably one of the toughest parts of my life. I'm like, you got to be kidding me! Like all this time, I thought it was finally gonna happen, and just never did. So 3 straight years of my life going undrafted. And so at the time, I was like, you know what, I'm just ready to start playing again. And so I had these connections to a couple teams in independent pro baseball, which is pro, but it's not affiliated with any MLB team, which can get kind of confusing. But anyway, it's like the bottom of, it's for guys that, are on the last legs of their career for the most part, or like newcomers like me who are still trying to get in. Um, and so I went there to Chicago, the Chicago Dogs, and had a great experience there. Struggled at first, but ended up kind of finding my niche and finding out how to deal with things, and ended up doing really well to where I wanted to keep playing. And so going into 2024, I was basically saying, you know what, this could be my last year of baseball, depending on what happens. And so I went to a different team, the Southern Maryland Blue Crabs, and played 6 games there. And finally, the Twins came calling. Um, and so from there, it was like it took off. I went to low A Fort Myers, did really well there for about a month. Went to Cedar Rapids, high A, in Iowa, and thought I was going to be there for a while. And after like 2 weeks, I got the call to St. Paul AAA, and they told me like this is probably just because we're dealing with some low amounts of players in AAA. We have some injuries. Don't even bring your car. Like they told me that. Like don't even bring your car. You'll probably be back in a little bit. And so, but things just worked out to where I ended up staying there the rest of the year. And so that's how I got there. And then injuries happen. And then I ended up starting again, but later this year. And so that's where I'm at now.
Okay, so you're in AAA.
Right.
So I just want to back up a little bit. So talk about what was it like to get that call, to finally get that call.
From the Twins. It didn't feel real, like at the moment. Like I remember my manager bringing me in, Stu Clyburn and or sorry, Stan Clyburn, they're twin brothers, Stan Clyburn in Southern Maryland, and he sat me down and was like, "Well, Peyton, the Twins have purchased your contract. You're gonna go to I think Fort Myers," and I was like, "That doesn't feel real," because like I told you, like all these points in my life where I thought it was gonna happen and it never did. So you almost get used to that feeling. You're like, okay, it's just not gonna happen, and then it finally does, and you like it almost doesn't feel like it's actually happening. And so then that was one of the coolest like probably hours of my life because I called all my family members and like teammates and stuff and been like finally happened and stuff. So yeah, that was cool.
And what has it been like being in the minor system? How have you grown or kind of adapted to what it means to be a pro at this level? Again, both kind of personally and on the field.
Right. I would say just like being really I guess dedicated to what you do. It takes a certain level of I guess patience and just discipline. I've kind of learned that from a lot of the teammates I've kind of played with, and just coaches and people I've experienced that time with, and like because this game you can get so emotional in this game, like, but when you play every day, like you're gonna go for 4, you're gonna go for 5, you're gonna strike out, like you can't let that carry over, because it's just it's a marathon. Baseball's a marathon. You play over 100 games, like you can't be so caught up in one moment. For example, like this year, I started off and I struggled coming back from injury. I was struggling. I wasn't getting back to where I was trying to be, and that was like really tough because I'm like, what am I doing wrong? But you got to just stick with it, stick to your plan. And so that was probably the biggest thing I've been learning being here because everybody's the best player on their college team. Everybody's the best player on their high school team. So like it just the pyramid just keeps getting smaller and smaller of good players. So um, yeah, that's the toughest thing to learn. Just navigating through the minors. And so that makes me rely on my faith a lot. Like I said, from Cedarville, what I learned there, just because if you don't have something to fall back on and you're treating baseball as like the best thing and like that is the only thing in your life, it's gonna fail you at some point. So that's why I would say that for that question. Yeah, so that's helped me a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. So now you're in AAA. Of course, you're hoping that the day comes to be called up, whether it be this year or next year. How old are you right now?
I'm 25.
Okay, perfect. So, because I know Tanner was talking about his age and how he's like, I feel like a grandpa, which is funny, but
Right.
I
Yeah,
know what it's like to be an
I felt the
athlete.
same way when
So,
I was there last year. You're playing with like a bunch of 21, 20s, 20-year-olds, even high school, like guys straight out of high school, and you're like, man, I'm 24. Um,
yeah.
but yeah, I understand that. But yeah, you keep playing well, and they'll keep promoting you, and they'll stick with you.
Yeah, and you said you're kind of a utility guy, but are you still focused on shortstop more or less, or do they
I would
just
say
really
more
kind of
on. I would say more an infield,
Okay.
mainly second base and shortstop,
Sure.
those two positions.
Okay.
If I
Um,
had to really, but it's almost like at this point in my career, it's like wherever they want to put me and I'm on the field, I really do not care. I would go back and play catcher if they really need me to. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah,
Um,
that's great.
I would
And
go play first base. I'm not the tallest, but I'll pick everything out of the ground. So
right.
hey,
And versatility in anything, right, gives you more of an opportunity. So
exactly.
the more versatile you are, the better.
Hmm.
Um, just tell me, because I know every position is difficult in its own way, right? But I do know that there is something about the shortstop position that is
Right.
really kind of challenging for teams to find the guy. So can you just tell me a little bit about what makes that position a little more challenging or unique than some of the others?
Yeah, I would just say it's definitely where you have your best athlete, I would say, on the field because it's like where the most ground balls go to. Because you think about if a righty hitter's up, they're gonna pull the ball most, and it's gonna go to shortstop. And then also you're farther at times you're probably farthest away from first base than any other position on the field, depending on where the third baseman is. But so you got to have like a decently strong arm too. And so you got to number one field the ball, and you got to get rid of it quick, and then also have an accurate throw. And I don't know if you ever seen like the distances on a baseball field. I like the Oakland Raiders when they had the football lines on the baseball field, and you look at some of those lines and it's like, oh wow, a throw from shortstop to first base can be like 50 yards. You don't really think about it when you just look at a baseball field, but it kind of put it into context when you saw the football field on the baseball field. So that just shows you how far of a throw you got to make, and you got to be accurate with it. So I would say probably the most challenging position athletically on the field, because you got to be quick too. You got to had a good head on your shoulders. You're kind of like the commander of the infield as well. If I had to like I guess compare it to any position, kind of like a cornerback in football, defensive back. So, you got to be super athletic. You got to be able to cover ground, cover range. And so that's why I would say it's probably pretty tough. I like playing shortstop mainly for that role. And so that's why that challenging aspect of it really excites me whenever I see my name slotted in for shortstop.
Yeah, absolutely. I was gonna say baseball IQ, right? I mean,
Exactly.
everyone
Yeah.
needs to know what's going on the field, but there's certain positions that baseball IQ really comes in. Just a couple more. I'm so sorry to keep you so long, but I really do love doing these
No,
stories.
you're good. You're good.
And
I'm
so,
on vacation right now, so I really have all the
okay,
time.
okay. So that's kind of my next question. So it's All-Star Week. That's why we're doing this story to kind of localize, the hype of
Yeah.
All-Star Week in baseball. So, um, one, are you going to watch any of the festivities and events this week? And two, what does it mean though when you see something like the All-Star game where it's the best of the best?
Yeah, I've been watching the All-Star game since I was probably before I could really remember. Especially here in Minnesota, we would always come up here and visit my grandparents, my cousins, and I remember we'd all, whenever the All-Star game would come on, whether Home Run Derby would be on, we would, gather around and just sit and watch our favorite players, all of that. And you almost like in the back of your head, like, man, you're imagining, like, man, maybe the one day that'll be me. And so that was always just a cool thing. So yeah, I'll definitely be watching this next upcoming days. I think it's the Home Run Derby tonight, Monday, and then the All-Star game tomorrow.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's gonna be fun. And so, sorry, I know I have one more, and I'm just trying to think if there was one
No,
more.
you're good.
Okay. What would you tell someone because your path hasn't been super linear?
Right.
If you had to like go back and talk to your kid self, like what would you tell someone about a path that maybe isn't as easy, but you've stuck with it?
I think the toughest paths like end up being the most rewarding. Um, and so if you have like a goal, if you have a dream, like for me, I always wanted to accomplish it. I was going to do whatever I could to do that. And so I kind of just left it up to the Lord. I was like, this is what I want to do with my life. I'm going to work as hard as I can with it. If the opportunity opens up, it does. If not, I just got to be okay with that. But at the end of the day, like I just try to do my best. Like I was going out there, I'm like, this is this is my dream. This is what I want to do. I didn't feel like it was over after I got undrafted, multiple times. There was nothing in my head telling me that I should be done, and so that's why I kind of stuck with it and kept going with it. And I think when you have that kind of chip on your shoulder like that, it allows you to kind of unlock something in yourself you don't really know was really in there, but kept with it. Sorry, I keep saying the same thing, but yeah, it's like it's tough. It's definitely tough for sure. And so I respect anybody that truly believes that they can be able to do something, whether it's athletically, whether it's trying to get some type of job or whatever their passion is. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I know all about it. Just my history a little bit. I was a professional dancer before I switched careers. So
Oh,
that's why I
nice.
was like, I understand it from the athlete standpoint, and
Yeah.
I understand it from what life looks like after that,
Mhm.
and kind of going into this next phase. And so I think I'm good to wrap up there, except I do have to give you a little bit of a hard time. And I didn't
What's
really
that?
have to do this with Tanner because he's with
Okay.
the Brewers and I'm not a Cubs fan, but I'm originally from Chicago, which means I'm a White Sox fan.
You want to know
So
something
I'm like,
crazy?
him being with the Twins minors and stuff.
Yeah. My dad's from Chicago, and so and then my grandpa played for the White Sox in the minors.
Really?
Yeah, he
That's
didn't make it all the
awesome.
way up, but he played for them in the minors. And so growing up, my dad and my grandpa were White Sox fans. And so I
Oh,
I kind of have a little bit of White Sox in me as well.
okay. I love that. I
Yeah.
love that. I was at their game. That's why I'm traveling back. I was at the game yesterday
Oh, nice. Let's
for
go.
the '05 celebration,
Yeah.
like reunion. So
Right.
okay, so I was like, I have to get that in there. I have to give him a hard time. But no, just in all seriousness though, I do wish you luck. And what's the next, goal? I mean, I think it's kind of obvious, but if you can just state
Right.
it since this is an interview, what is the next goal?
I don't obviously, it'd be to make the majors, but at this point it's like you can't be worried about that. You got to control what you control, go out there and play every day. I remember when I was in the lower levels of the minors, and I was playing well, I'm like, man, like every day I was like, maybe this day I get promoted, maybe this day I get promoted. And it can be like tough getting locked in that mentality because then you're like, you're almost stressing yourself too much about things that, you can't even control. And so, I don't like to really I guess like try to think about that or anything, but just go out there and just do what I can.